Versatile, hardy, easy to grow, and prolific. Not to mention, pretty darn tasty. Peas. That lovely legume easing us from spring to summer with its sweet pods of delicious nutrition. Hi guys, I'm really excited about today's video because nothing beats fresh peas off the vine. Not even juicy sun-ripened tomatoes right off the vine, or even baby carrots that taste like candy. There's just something about brand new pea pods that screams garden freshness to me. And whenever new gardeners ask me what it is they should grow for their first crop, 9 times out of 10, I suggest they plant peas. Containers, raised beds, or endless rows of them. Peas hit all the right marks of easiness, impressive tangible growth, and a large harvest. When you're just starting out and you see that level and speed of growth, it's very motivating and it's confidence building. It lets you know that yes, you can be a gardener. So join me today as we follow the journey of the humble pea from dry seed to 8-foot trellis monsters with endless harvests. Should be a good one. What you eating, bud?
Randy.
No matter what variety we're eating, peas are the immature seeds held within the pea pods of the legume plant, Pisum sativum. The pea pod itself is botanically considered a fruit, making that flower being the ovary of the pea plant. Like most legumes, peas are annuals, plants that complete their entire life cycle within a year or less. These guys are grown worldwide, but they are considered to be a cool season, cool climate crop. Traditionally, way back in medieval times, peas were only ever eaten cooked in things like peas porridge and pea soup. Man, those guys didn't know what they were missing. Pea plants are very hardy, but they grow and taste best when the temperatures are under 70 degrees Fahrenheit and above 50 degrees Fahrenheit. In this temperature range, even the longest growing pea varieties are going to be ready for harvest in under 70 days. So, knowing these two things, we can then work backwards and deduce the best time to be planting our peas. In most temperate climates with a true winter, this gives us 2 chances at planting peas within a calendar year. First planting is right after the last frost date in the spring. You plant these guys for an early summer harvest, like the ones I have here. After that, you can plant again about 80 to 90 days before your first fall frost date. The specific calendar dates are going to be different for every zone, every region, but the date relative to the frost date of your local area is going to follow the same timeline. A couple of weeks after that last spring frost date for the first batch, and then 80 to 90 days before that first frost in the fall for the second one. Easy stuff. Peas really are an interesting plant in that they're such a vigorous grower. They grow so fast, yet they don't transplant very well. The best pea plants and crops seem to come from direct seeding, so that's what we're going to focus on today. This wall of peas here was planted around 2 months ago, so let's take a trip to back then to see how I did it. As we said, peas are best grown direct seeded, and their relatively large seeds get planted about 1 inch deep. Ideally, the soil temperature should be above 45 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and at that range, they'll sprout in less than 2 weeks. The warmer the temperatures though, the faster they sprout, and I've had some pop up in 4 days flat. Now, some people do like to pre-soak their pea seeds for about a day or 2 before, just to get them started, especially if they have dry soils. And while this step isn't necessary, it can be a good way to pick out the good ones from the bad, especially if you're using old seed. If you're only planting the sprouted ones, you're pretty much guaranteed 100% germination success. What I like to do, however, is when I'm planting pea seeds, I like to do 2 or 3 in the same spot. This way, there's a greater chance of 100% sprouting success in each location I want to grow a pea plant, and if they all sprout, I simply cut back the weaker ones. Either way, space your pea seeds around 4 inches apart and give them at least a light dusting of mulch before watering to consolidate the planting. Young pea plants are quite strong and they'll have no trouble breaking through a thin layer of mulch. For the best conditions of your crop, peas like full sun, a moist, rich soil that's neutral in pH, and really good drainage. After sprouting, I find that the pea plants tend to grow rather slow. Likely, this is because they're building out their network of roots first. But once the shoots do start growing, watch out. They take off like crazy. Of all the varieties of peas, there's 2 main growth habits. You can get bush peas, which stay about 18 inches, maybe 2 feet tall. And then you got the pole peas. These climbers here, they get upwards of 6 to 8 feet. Now, both are going to need support, but these guys really need it. At least 6 feet to get the most out of the crop. You can use bamboo poles, wood stakes, a fence, or even just a network of wires like I've created here. And unlike tomato vines, peas don't need constant staking. This amazing crop produces long climbing appendages that we call tendrils, and they're what's known as active climbers. These tendrils find new supports, wrap around, and away the plant goes. It's truly amazing to see a wall of peas develop in just a few short weeks. As the pea vines grow up, keep them well watered, but not saturated. Peas hate wet feed, and as fast as they grow, they'll rot from the bottom up just as fast. Mulch really helps to lock in that moisture, and a nice thick layer means you don't have to water nearly as much. As for feeding, peas are legumes. Yes, they do fix a small amount of their own nitrogen, but as organic growers, we know that a single macronutrient isn't enough to sustain a whole plant indefinitely. And even though these guys here aren't up yet, container peas are going to need more supplementation than those that are grown in a raised bed or straight into a garden plot. For me, I've always used a low-dose organic liquid feed that skews lower in nitrogen than it does phosphorus or potassium. On the bottle or packaging of any retail fertilizer, there's 3 numbers on the front that indicate the relative ratio of these 3 macronutrients. The first number is nitrogen. So you want to make sure that that number is lower than the other 2. Peas grow fast, and I only supplement them once, maybe twice early on. I found that the best times are usually around 3 to 4 weeks after germination, and then again maybe 3 to 4 weeks after that. As pea plants grow so fast, and because they're usually planted early in the season when our beds are the most fertile, we can often get away with no fertilizing at all. But if you're really looking for max bounty, a little liquid boost here or there about a month before harvest could really send your yields through the roof. Speaking of harvesting, picking peas is, well, easy peasy. Like we mentioned, the pea pod is actually a fruit, making that flower the ovary. The pod itself forms within the flower, eventually extending and dangling downwards. It's really quite something when you see the stages of it. And it happens quickly too, so if you blink, you'll miss it. As for when to pick the pea pods, well, that all depends. It depends on what type of pea plant you're growing, of which there's 3 to choose from. The first type of peas are what we call English peas, also known as shelling peas. They're called that because their pod is tough and fibrous and generally not eaten. Thus, these guys are shelled to get to the peas, which is the actual harvest. You have to wait until these guys are fully plump before picking them. The next type we have are the snow peas, which are the guys that I'm growing in this video. They're picked flat with almost no visible bumps from the peas inside. The pods are completely edible, and actually, they are the harvest. For the sweetest bounty, pick the pods when they're still a deep green and with no visible seed bumps. Leaving them on the vine too long is going to result in more bitter and tougher pods, and obviously not as tasty. And lastly, we have sugar snap peas, and these guys are a cross between the other two types. Like English peas, the pods on the sugar snaps are allowed to plump up. But, much like the snow peas, the pods are completely edible too. With sugar snap types, you get the best of both worlds. Whichever type you grow, keep harvesting the pods until they stop sending out flowers. With the right nutrition and moisture levels, this may not be until an environmental clue hits them, such as temperature. Peas are truly prolific, and the more you pick, it seems, the more you get. After around 3 to 4 months of growth, the end of the pea plants are in sight. Observing no-till practices, simply snip off the vine at the bottom where the root collar meets the soil and peel back the plants off the trellis. The spent pea plants make an excellent mulch if grounded up, and if not, your compost will happily make room for them. What a plant! It's hard to believe that we're so lucky that peas are so easy to grow. However, I do feel like we covered a lot of ground here, so let's quickly recap those main points so it all sinks in. Overall, peas are one of the quickest crops we grow. Certainly the quickest fruiting crop. From seed to harvest in as little as 60 days. Direct seeding these guys is best, either in the really early days of spring or in the late summer for a fall harvest. As a cool weather crop, plant your pea seeds about an inch deep, roughly 4 inches apart. After planting, use a mulch layer to keep the soil cool and moist, and within a week to 10 days, your peas will start to sprout. If you're growing the larger, more common pole peas, you'll need to start trellising them when they're about 6 inches high. As an active climber, peas need to be provided with a structure to climb on, or they're going to flop over and underperform. Nothing elaborate, but usually 6 feet is the recommended height. Peas are grown in full sun with lots of moisture and even better drainage. As a legume, they do have the ability to fix and supply themselves with a little bit of nitrogen, but as far as blossoms and the pods go, you'll need to supplement with a balanced organic mix, ideally including some trace elements in there as well. If you're growing the snow peas, harvest them early and often to keep the plants producing. For the English or shelling type, they're ready when the pods have swollen to an almost cylindrical shape. And if you're lucky enough to grow the sugar snaps, well, they're best harvested when the pods just begin to swell. Keep harvesting for as long as the plants stay viable. As long as they're sending out flowers and producing pods, keep them going. As long as you don't overwater and plant them at the right time of year, you're gonna be successful with peas. Peas are an amazing plant with an amazing level of bounty. Every spring, my garden's fortunes seem to follow my peas. And if they're doing good for me, I know it's going to be a great year. And hey, I hope this year is great for you guys as well. Not just for your peas, but for all your plants. Hey, thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate the support more than you know. And if you're getting value from these videos, please like and share them to spread the word and help your fellow gardener to grow better.